Hi friends, this is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average Canadian wolfpack come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A safe space where being yourself is the ultimate goal. Each week we will bring you new episodes sharing our opinions on a ton of different topics in hopes we can get a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and this crazy world we live in. We want to build a community where we can show up as ourselves, be real, and lay it all out there. By sharing our opinions and experiences, we hope to reach others who can relate so we can all help each other learn, grow, and heal. But please keep in mind, as a disclaimer, none of us here are professionals. No one is giving any advice. We are strictly speaking of our life experiences, our opinions, and for entertainment purposes only. Now, with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. We hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I'm the host of the show. And today you guys were on episode 158, Being Real with Terry Fox. Now, my Canadian friends do not get as excited thinking this is our past legend, Terry Fox, our Canadian hero. This to me is a hero from the Americas, someone that I very much look up to and respect so much in his area of expertise. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear more about this and about this topic today, where we discuss natural beauty, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, beauty standards. It was just such a beautiful conversation, you guys. I cannot wait for you guys to meet Terry. He's awesome. But before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you are listening on YouTube or Rumble or Spotify, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you can, comment for engagement. If you are listening to Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, you guys can also follow us there. And if you can, leave us a little review, a couple stars. Hit your babes with some stars if you're loving the show. It really helps us get us out there and put us out to other people. As always, guys, you can find us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at the Be Real Babe podcast. Make sure you're liking and chatting with us over there. Let us know if you have any episode suggestions, have any comments, questions, concerns. Do you want to be a guest? Do you know a guest that should be on our show? We want to hear from you. Now, I'm going to shut up so you guys can hear this amazing episode with Terry. I'm so excited that he came on and so excited for this amazing episode about to drop into your lives right now. All right, babes, it's time to jump on to the show. And with me today in studio, we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Colorado. I'd like to welcome Terry Fox to the show. Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to let me be on your show, Brandy. I sure appreciate it.
I'm so excited. I just watched your talk with your live with Gretch from Never Talks, and I was just like, oh, I'm so now extra amped to get on here and chat with you today. So thank you for coming on our show and being willing to share what you're doing and how you feel about sometimes some controversial topics, unfortunately. But before we get into all of that, can you give us a little bit about yourself and who you are, and then we'll lead into what you do?
You bet. Well, a little bit about me. I'm 46 years old at the moment. I was born in northern Wyoming in a little bitty town called Buffalo, Wyoming.
Okay, yeah.
I lived on a cattle ranch. I grew up in the heart of cowboy culture. I'm a Christian. I'm a father of two boys. I've been married for 20 years, and I have two pugs, Padfoot and Angus. They're two little black pugs. And I have been in the profession of body work since 1997. I started out as a massage therapist. My mom, when I was 17, was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And that, for the folks that don't know what that is, that's an autoimmune disease that creates a whole lot of pain in the body. And it wanders and it moves, and it also creates, a lot of times there's chronic fatigue that goes with it. So I kind of became the designated shoulder rubber at home. My mom we'd come home and she'd say, well, your dad rubs too hard. Your brother just doesn't do it right. You've just got the touch. And so one night while I was working on her shoulder, she said, maybe you ought to think about doing this professionally. And that really, it was a light bulb kind of moment. I went, I can do that? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
it
amazing.
took me a little bit to do that. There weren't any massage therapy schools in Wyoming when I got out of high school, so I dinked around in junior college and ended up getting an associate's degree in English, and then went, "What am I going to do with an English degree?"
I don't know about you, but some of them I have to wonder, like, I totally get having the knowledge and the education, but then you have to sometimes think, like, apply this to real world, where does that stand? Like, maybe if you don't want to be a teacher or, a speech, I don't know. I don't know what you would do with that.
I
Sorry.
was considering being a writer, but I knew that writers, you gotta be really prolific and pretty amazing to make a good living off of writing. And so I
Yeah,
thought I better rethink this and make sure I have a side hustle if I want to write. So
totally.
let's relook at this massage therapy gig. That led me
Cool.
to the Utah College of Massage Therapy, and that's where I got my first like real major exposure to Chinese medicine theory. And I
Oh,
learned applied kinesiology and Japanese shiatsu and acupressure, and got my first exposure to Chinese pulse reading, and got out of there and ended up working at the hospital. I helped start the first hospital-based massage therapy program in the state of Wyoming over Ivinson Memorial Hospital in Laramie, Wyoming.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got to
Great
see
thing to
all
do.
sorts of interesting cases,
Patient cases, yeah.
and I had experiences there in the hospital where I was using acupressure
Hmm.
and saw such results with people that I thought, holy cow, if I know how to do this like an acupuncturist,
Mm-hmm.
these people might not even be in here.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
when they came to my program in 2003, that's when I said, okay, I want to go to acupuncture school. And so I got my master's degree from the Colorado School of Traditional Chinese Medicine down in Denver, but I think they just rebranded, so I can't remember what the school's name is now, but it used to be CSTCM.
Yeah. Okay, yep.
And I got my acupuncture license in 2006 and have been practicing here in northern Colorado ever since.
That's amazing. That's a quite cool story. I want to go back to the beginning though for just a second. Ironically, my mother has fibromyalgia as well. So I very much am in the understanding of when you said, there's the right kind of pressure for that massage.
Yep.
That is 100% what I've experienced with my mom, and just like you said, the chronic fatigue. It's a very just to circle around that. Like, good for you for being that for your mom, because I don't think a lot of people understand what it is like to be a child of someone with fibromyalgia. Because for one, a lot of people don't, like, quote unquote, believe it, or they can't see it and they can't understand it, so there's not as much empathy. And just watching her be one of the strongest human beings I know, and to be completely debilitated and not able to do anything to fix it, and me not being able to help her, that is such um, a crappy place to feel like as a child.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to take a craft that you could have while you were caring for her and then make that your whole entire career, I think that's really amazing. So just like kudos for you for seeing that and wanting to help that in other people, because unless you have fibro or you're a child of or in your family, you don't understand it. I mean, people that even diagnose it, I don't think fully understand it, or we probably wouldn't see as much of it. And I notice as she's aging, things are changing. It's so good because we're doing all these changes with her, but man, is that a terrible thing to be diagnosed with at such a young age. So that's incredible. That's something obviously I didn't know about you. That was like immediately like, wow, okay, yeah, makes sense why we met.
Yes, indeed.
That's really awesome.
Well, I'm a big believer that the good Lord puts you where you need to be.
Every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, I love that. And so it's like, yeah, instead of hiding from that, you kind of leaned in and helped her. And I'm sure she was just like you were saving grace for her, I'm sure. And she's probably really proud, I would imagine, of the work that you've done. That's like where you are now, but where that started too, right? So, and then to start a whole program at a hospital, for people say now like alternative medicine, let's say, but I feel like all of like acupuncture, chiro, massage, all of those individuals that I have in my personal like medical team, that's who I go to when things are off. I don't go to a GP. I don't go to like tradition like that way. I go to this what people deem now alternative, but used to be the core of medicine. And I feel like it's so not dismissed, but once you get into that world, like you said, once you realize acupuncture, what it can do, not just for your body, your whole entire like energy and spirit, however you want to look at that. It's incredible. So what a moment for you to like realize that service and what it could do for people.
You bet. Well, I just want to make clear, I did not necessarily start that program at the hospital.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I was one of the first or one of the first massage therapists hired there,
Oh,
and
hired. Okay.
then we all kind of put our heads together and made sure we were doing the things to create the program. And so I can't say I can't take all the credit for it. As much as I would
That's very
love
helpful.
to,
Well,
want,
your piece
want to make
in that
sure
and
that
being part of it.
folks know it was a team effort.
Of course, of course, of course. It was very humble of you. But yes, no, just for the person that I know, I just think that's incredible to be a part of it. Most of that stuff obviously takes a community and it's not just one person, but to be a part of something that you're so passionate for and then to be part of something that big that's obviously changed that area and brought that service. I hope you have a badge of honor for that, for sure.
Yes, indeed.
And so let's go into, if we can, a little bit then into acupuncture and the benefits that maybe what you started to see and then how that kind of progressed from there. What was your first like moment where like, wow, this is really something special?
Well, I can tell you my first experience with acupuncture was when I was in massage therapy school, and I was taking a Japanese shiatsu class. And shiatsu is all about massaging the points and working with the meridian channels in the body. And that's something we ought to talk about too, is
Mhm.
just the
Yes.
concept of what the ideas behind acupuncture, because
Mhm.
so many people I run into aren't necessarily familiar with it. So I'm going to take
Mhm.
just a little bit of a jog
Please.
here.
Yes.
The idea with acupuncture is that we have this energy in our bodies that make us animated living human beings. And the Chinese call it qi, the Japanese call it ki. There's plenty of other words in other cultures for it, but it's what makes us animated living human beings. And that tiny little word qi can mean energy, but we're talking what kind of energy? Kinetic energy, chemical energy, electrical energy, magnetic energy. It encompasses all of that. There's also the idea of there's a gaseous component as well. The Chinese character of qi is actually a picture of a pot sitting on a fire with steam rising off the top. So there's a gaseous component to it as well. So we can also talk about how qi can be related to gasotransmitters in the body, such as nitric oxide, and how different the way we can manipulate different points can upregulate or downregulate nitric oxide levels within the tissue. And nitric oxide opens up blood vessels, so it increases. Woo! There goes my camera. It increases circulation.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe I just lost my camera there for a second. I
It
got
happens
too
to the best.
excited. I got too excited about this, Brandy.
One day I just flipped the whole thing up when I was talking, my whole laptop and everything. So we've been there. Happens when you're French too and you're animated with your hands.
Yes, indeed. So, yes, acupuncture works on a lot of different levels, but the idea is that this qi needs to be flowing freely and smoothly through the body. My job as an acupuncturist is to diagnose where there are imbalances in that flow or blockages in that flow. We see the body like a garden or a field where you're growing crops, not like a machine like modern medicine looks at the body like a machine or a car. You replace the parts, you mess with the chemicals, that sort of stuff. Here, it's seeing the whole body in context. So when you're growing crops on a field, well, you got to know what your soil's like. You got to know what kind of crop you're growing. You've got to know the weather patterns in the area where you're growing. And then you've got to have a good irrigation system. You're running ditches through that field, and you have to have the appropriate amount of water running through the ditch. And so that ditch has to be at the right level. Otherwise, you're flooding out your crops or you're drying out your crops. So my job as an acupuncturist is to assess the water levels in your ditch, so to speak.
Okay. That's a
The
great
chi
analogy.
being the water in the ditch. So if there are blockages, if there are imbalances, I use specific points to rebalance, bring your body back to homeostasis, balancing those chi levels so that you're getting the appropriate amount of water in your ditches to nourish the field of your body.
I love
Make
that.
sense?
That was a great way. That's such as a visual person, like that completely, absolutely made sense to me on a whole different level. What a great explanation of that. Thank you.
Okay, so we took a jog. Now we got to get
That's
back
okay.
on
Yes.
track
Yeah.
and remind me where that track was.
So now that we understand how the acupuncture, like you said, it to bring your body back, right? And I think that a lot of people can understand the blockages. You sometimes just feel that, right? Even if you don't understand the energetic explanation of that, you know when something feels stagnant in your body. Like people know, right? So once we've explained that, what are the benefits of releasing those blockages?
Ah,
Say if you have dry ditches or overwatered ditches, what is how unblocking or flowing better, how does that
okay.
English today is great, you know what I'm saying,
Now,
benefits.
yes, now we're back on track. So when we're talking about acupuncture, we're talking about traditional Chinese medicine. And when I say medicine, I do mean
Mhm.
medicine. So there are many benefits to receiving acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, and even massaging points. The other branch of Chinese medicine is using your food as medicine. And the final branch is energy enhancing exercise. So things like Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, these kinds of things. So the benefits are many. And that was one of the reasons why I got into acupuncture, is because I was finding that as I was massaging people, they'd say, yeah, I felt good for a day or two, but then, my pain came right
Come back.
back.
Mhm.
And so when I started learning, it was like, oh, man, well, part of it may be that their sleep is off. Well, acupuncture can help with sleep problems. Sometimes your digestive system's off. Acupuncture can help with your digestive issues. If you're having nerve pain, musculoskeletal pain, acupuncture helps with those.
Mhm.
Acupuncture is also very holistic. And so it has an effect not only on the physical body, but also the mental, emotional body. There are emotions associated with all of the organ systems according to Chinese medicine thought. So
Mhm.
if you're feeling irritation, frustration, anger, fear, sadness, worry, rumination, overthinking, all of these things can be supported and helped through acupuncture and, of course, Chinese herbal medicine, Chinese dietary theory, massage, and exercise.
Yep, that's amazing. And it sounds like people just complicate it more, right? Like all of that stuff can be like, I always find when people are getting have all these illnesses that, let's if we look at Western medicine, it's always about, like you said, masking. And that was such a great analogy about just changing the parts and adding chemicals instead of getting to the root causes of things, of why did this start to begin with. And I think it's people just overcomplicate it and think, well, I just need to take this pill or I just need to do this. And it's like, let's dial back for a second and let's, like you said, sleeping, eating, I think there's that whole part that people are missing of just the basics that you need to give your body to function properly, because it's such an amazing thing. Like I people just discredit their body so much and just feel like it always needs a pill. And I'm on the same path of you. It's just like there's something blocking, there's something stagnant. Like I go to a massage and chiropractor regardless of how my body's feeling. Even if I feel great, I work at a desk job, I physically lift weights 5-6 days a week, I'm not great at stretching, I'm not good at those things, and I've been in plenty of car accidents. So if I don't do the maintenance and I just keep up with that kind of stuff, my body and my mind and my spirit, everything, it just kind of feels like it does this, right? Like
Yep.
it just melts in. And people just, I feel like if we could just get to the basics of working with your body and making sure that it is set up in its root, in its core, then maybe we can see the effects of and limiting the illnesses. And I just think it's, you just explained it so nice. Like, it's finding those emotions and then where is it being stored in the body? Because I don't know about other people, but me being in car accidents, is my anxiety like, I can immediately, my body knows I'm going to drive a certain way that I'm nervous about, and it immediately goes like this. And then all of a sudden now I'm getting all this pain in my shoulders, even though I'm not doing anything, I'm just driving, and people don't understand that emotional storage on the topness, like feeling of your skin, that can be released with acupuncture, I found anyways. And like that emotional release of holding on to that fear of driving, it actually, you can kind of release it emotionally, and you just, in your mind, you're like, that's kind of crazy, but it does, it happens. And it's so
Yeah.
basic, right? Basic, because it's not, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we complicate it so much more.
It's very much human.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's part of what I love about this medicine is that it's observations from ancient doctors clear up to modern day
yeah.
nowadays. But it's all based on natural observation of human behavior. And this idea of somatization, that's the fancy term for it, storing of emotion in your physical tissue. It's a real thing. I mean,
It is.
I don't know how many times over the years, either with massage or acupuncture, where I've been working with someone and all of a sudden I hit just a certain muscle or a certain point, and all of a sudden my patient's like, I don't know why all of a sudden I feel like I need to bawl, but we're just
Stored
releasing
trauma.
that stuck energy. Emotion is energy in motion, emotion.
Yeah,
And
that's what.
when there's stuff, I mean, we just do this naturally as human beings. We don't want to deal with that emotional pain or that emotional trauma. And so we stuff it.
Yeah.
And when we stuff it, it ends up being stored in our tissue. There's a
Mm-hmm.
great book, and I can't remember the author, but it's called The Body Knows the Score. And
Cool.
it
Yeah.
kind of explains that whole concept. But
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is that the body will hold on to that energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one of the things that I really encourage my patients to do is like, okay, when feelings come up,
Mm-hmm.
feel those feelings. Do not
Yeah.
stuff them
Feel
down.
that.
Do not hold them in. And I mean, if it's like, okay, well, you're not in an appropriate place right now to just like have a massive breakdown. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right.
Fair.
You
Yeah.
can you can find
Keep it
when you
together for
find a
now.
place, a safe space to do that. And
Yeah.
believe me, my office is a safe space to do that.
Of course. Yeah.
I hold
Absolutely.
space for my people, and yeah, you feel that, and really just let it move. And when you allow that to move, then it starts to dissipate. What we
Mm-hmm.
resist, it hangs on, it persists. What we
Of
resist
course. Yeah.
persists.
Yeah.
But what we allow, and when we look at it and feel it, then it moves, it
Mhm.
dissipates, and it's gone. It's sort of like the fear litany from Dune. I don't know if you've ever read that book or not,
Mm-mm.
but there's
No.
uh, and I shouldn't have brought it up because now I can't remember it off the top of my head.
That's okay.
It starts out, fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
if you were to Google fear is the mind killer, you'll end up reading this little litany
Mm-hmm.
from the book Dune, but it's very profound because it's about facing fear and letting fear move through you and past you. And
Mm-hmm.
really really cool thing that Frank Herbert wrote. Um,
Yeah, it's so true too. And I think like fear, it really does, it holds on to so much. And I think it leads to so many different things. Like the second part I do want to talk about is more like the beauty and the aesthetic part of what you're doing. But the fear of, being rejected or not being a part of everything. And I think that's a big part of this beauty industry, and what they've been able to get hold on to is the fear of aging, the fear of, not being perfect and youthful. And it really has some women scared that like the end of their life is terrible. And we see that with, with mothers as well. Like women these days now, it's just like, oh, having a kid is terrible and it's awful and it's all these bad things. And, for someone like myself who like struggles with infertility, I just don't see that side of it. But I see that push of being like, oh, be your boss, babe. It's so scary being a mom. And you just see that fear can completely change an individual. and make them operate in ways that they probably wouldn't normally if they felt safe or not threatened. And over the last couple of years, I think most people have seen that at a different level too. So to me too, if you're not getting that when you're not expressing it and everything is staying inside your head, especially, and you're not speaking it out, like you said, where it's going to store somewhere, right? So I think that's why it's like talk therapy or however you want to do therapy is good in a sense to like, if it's just always in here, it's just going to always go in here. And if you're not even speaking it out loud, it's going to fester more. So if we can talk about it, and then we can go with the practitioners that help us release, because you can tell your body to release that anxiety as you're driving and your legs are still going like this, no matter what you want, because you can do all the brain work, in my opinion. And I'm not a professional at all, but this is how I see it. You can do all the brain work, but it's still stored in that body somewhere. And if you're not in a homeostasis from eating properly, sleeping properly, moving your body, get that lymphatic system moving, it's just going to like compound too over time. And it's just going to be all around not good. So I think that's why I love having a group of practitioners that help with your mind, your spirit, your physical body in all different ways, right? Like I love going to my masseuse and then I immediately go to my chiropractor and she's like, oh yeah, like you're just in a perfect spot. And then I also get to talk to them and they're like my little mini therapist, which like you said is a safe space to be. You guys do hold that level of spiritual and mental health practitioners as well, even though that might not be in your title, because there is that release of tension in the body. So I think that's really amazing that you do keep that. And my experience is most practitioners that help your body do fully understand that. When my OG host, she is the first one to say, like, she'll go into acupuncture and she's like, and I just bawled and bawled and and I came out and I felt so refreshed. And she's like, I go in there not just for my body, but I know it's going to heal my spirit too and my energy. And so that's why I think all of us are so drawn to it, because we see the full round benefit of what your guys' practices and services do. And I really hope that after this episode, other people could understand that as well, and get into that, because like I said, you can do everything you want in here. You can tell yourself you're okay, but in my experience, as I'm driving with my driving anxiety, my whole body shuts up when I go to a certain part of my to work route, no matter what I do with my brain. And I know I have to go, and then now I need to like clear that out. There's something going on in like my hips or something. And I just hope that people look at all these different avenues, especially when you have benefits. Like I have $500 a month or a year for acupuncturist. Why wouldn't I
Nice.
that, right? Like, right? And I know it's hard for people that don't have benefits, but if you have them, use them, because it's such a release. And I just thank you for doing that for people in your area.
You
Can you come
bet.
up to Canada? Just kidding.
Well, I know a couple of practitioners in Canada, but not many.
There's not many, yeah. I think we have a couple for sure here that I'm gonna have to go and like check out. But I just think it's incredible. So the Chinese medicine part of it with your practice, is it just like you said, the physical part, or do you offer also like the more medicine part and the diet part? Do you offer that as well within
Yes.
your practices?
Yeah.
Cool. Can you talk about that a little
When I was going through acupuncture school, that whole program was okay. You have to learn acupuncture. You have to learn Chinese herbal medicine. You have to learn some about the dietary theory, and you have to learn a little bit of massage. I I kind of aced that part because I'd already had
bit?
some good instruction in that, and then also learning about qigong exercise. So I was schooled in all five branches. A lot of
That's
acupuncture schools now, they've had people just complain and say, well, we just want to learn the acupuncture part. We don't want to learn the rest. So schools, of course, will cater so that they can continue to make money. But I really believe that you're better off learning all five branches because they work so well together.
I agree. And I feel like you're doing your patients a better service when you kind of have that full rounded. And I think, and this is just my opinion, everyone knows this on the show, and sorry, but that's where I feel like Western medicine and GPs, they're lacking that understanding of dietitians part, like the nutrition stuff. My frustration with people around me that are sick all the time are the ones that go in and they talk to their GP and they're put on medication, but there's no conversation about what are you eating, how are you sleeping. And I think that is so crucial and such a beautiful part of that kind of practice, where they're like, no, 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 you don't just get to use the physical part of it. You need to know this holistically, because they all synergistically work. And if one's out, you could keep practicing this way. But if you're not eating properly, you're not going to get to where you are, because there's going to be things that are interfering in the way. And so I think that's beautiful that at some point it was crucial that you guys learned all of that. And of course, people always bend to what others, the loudest people are, but I'm glad that there are practitioners out there like you that do see the importance of that.
I'm a big fan of a multidisciplinary approach. I
Mm-hmm.
don't discourage people from seeing their massage therapist, seeing their chiropractor, or seeing their MD.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah, of course.
every medicine has its strengths and its weaknesses. And so when it comes to the more, chronic, everyday sort of life issue, that's where I think Chinese medicine, massage, and chiropractic have their strengths in
Mm-hmm,
these
definitely.
chronic type things. Whereas a good example of this, the strength of modern medicine, is in its life-saving techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I have two
Agreed.
boys. My oldest son, when he was 5, this was 10 years ago now. Uh, in fact, 10 years ago, as of like 2 days ago, um, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He
Oh
had
gosh.
a tumor in his chest that had completely squeezed out one lung and squeezed out a quarter of his other.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he
That's
was, I
terrifying.
mean, he was this close to dying, and was in the intensive care unit at a children's hospital, Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children, in Denver. And we went through a pretty long haul. But if it wasn't for the expertise of the oncologists and the specific kinds of chemotherapy that they used,
Mm-hmm.
my son would not be here today.
Very cool.
There was no way I could treat him.
No.
Um,
Yep.
Luckily, I mean, I had enough training to be able to finally see, okay, something's wrong here, because his signs were very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at least in that regard, I was able to get him in so that somebody could look at him, and then their life saving procedures took over. I was able to
Totally.
kind of help him with the side effects from the chemo,
Mm-hmm.
and with neuropathy and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
With well, I tried to sneak Chinese herbs in him, but little kids, their palates are pretty sensitive. So I,
They're
I
pretty
tried,
clever that way. Yeah.
I tried,
They're clever.
but a
That's
lot
one
of
thing.
massage and a little bit of
Mhm,
acupuncture
mhm.
went a whole
Long
a
way.
whole long way with him.
Yeah.
And so between the oncologist and what we were doing, I mean, we did a good job, and he's still here. He's 15 and strong and vital and healthy, and you'd look at the kid and have no idea that he
That's
went
what
through
happened.
that. But I never discourage people from
No.
going to their MD, and I
Mhm.
would much rather work in conjunction with other
Totally.
practitioners. It's the same way with the mental health issues. If I've
Mhm.
got somebody experiencing a whole lot of uh, release from trauma on my table, yeah, I'm going to be referring to a licensed professional counselor,
Mhm.
somebody who can really take them through some talk therapy, because that is
Yeah.
definitely not my strength and in my training.
No.
But
Yeah.
we all work together
Yeah. Yeah.
to support that person so that they can get the support that they need. And
Yeah.
that is what matters.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like that it's starting to happen more and more where there is a group of individuals. It's just not seeing one person and one opinion. It's bringing everyone together. And like you said, everyone learns different things, right? So why not have as many people with as much knowledge as possible? Because sometimes I do see kind of like a divide between, let's say, holistic and Western medicine, and the divide in that, it doesn't have to be one rules the other rules. They can coexist. They can, like you said, there's a part where um, uh, Western medicine does have to kick in. There's nothing that at this point that holistic practices can do. Like you said, with cancers and stuff like that. As much as there are people that have quote unquote reversed them with their diet, sometimes there's not ability to do that. So if we didn't, like you said, have that option, then there's a lot of people that would be suffering. And there is 100%, as much as I talk shit. Obviously, like we've always said, there's places for that. My beef is where those practitioners do not allow a group of individuals to have a group of having the conversations and act egotistical to their diagnosis is the only one. And the reason why is because I've had so many patients, not patients, I don't have patients, guests on with where they've spoken to their doctors and they've told them they're not sick and all that kind of stuff. So I get very frustrated with that type of practitioner because, you know, yes, women are crazy. We know that we're all crazy. But usually we're in tune with our body, right? So when, especially women with breast implants, go to their surgeons to say, I think it's this, they're like, oh, you're crazy. You're just, you know, and that, it makes me so sad to see that. And so I think that's where my kind of like shade is. At the same time, though, I completely understand. And like, especially like I said, that end, not end of life, but dire needs where it's too late. You can't do anything holistically preventative. You're there. You know, it is such a beautiful place. I just wish and hope for the future that people look at prevention in their own personal lives, so that they're not having to rely and overload that Western medicine, which I think we're seeing in both countries
Yep.
for quite a long time. In Canada, we're just the, you know, people always say that we have free healthcare. And of course, compared to other places, yes. At the same time, unfortunately, because it's overloaded, people aren't getting those services. And so, and there's no private practices as much here for people to opt out that do have the money that can then remove themselves from that public service, go to the private to open up the public for those that can't afford it. So it just makes me sad. And I think what I get frustrated too is that a lot of the natural services and practices are not as covered as benefits. Like I don't need my pharmacy, like my pill benefit at all, but it's like huge on my benefits. But I'm like, can you please open up my acupuncture and my chiro and my mental health just a little bit more, because I need that. And there's no vision. There's no vision in Canada. Benefits, you know, if you're blind like me, you got to pay for it. But I hope that, and I'm seeing the change over the last couple of years of, okay, let's start looking at prevention. What can we do? Like I said, I go and get massage and chiro every 6 weeks, regardless of how I feel, because I don't have to go in an emergency because I'm maintaining that throughout the year. And yeah, I think it's super cool. All right, babes, we're going to take a tiny break on this amazing episode to do another shout out. I have absolutely loved taking the time every single episode to give a shout out to a company, a small business, a service, a friend, a past guest, and just give them a little shout out and love and support, because community truly is everything. Today's shout out, we are so excited to share Lori McKay from Macro McKay. Now, you guys, I have been watching this babe from day one, where she learned how to do macros for herself and changed her whole entire life. And then she's been learning and living this life for years. And now she is an official macronutrition coach. And she has had her own company for a couple years now. And we are just so excited to share her today on this episode. You guys have to go follow her. You can find her at Macro McKay on Instagram. You can reach out to her. She has challenges, you guys, that you can go and learn what are macros and fit them into your lifestyle. She does one-on-one coaching year round. So you can, if the challenges aren't for you and you just want that one-on-one personal time, she does that. I'm not going to explain to you what macros are because I am not a professional, but it is not a yo-yo diet. It is not something that you have to feel restricted from and you have to hate foods. Lori is absolutely amazing at sharing plenty of recipes that are totally macro friendly, with even just everyday people on her Instagram story, let alone the stuff that she provides for her clients. It's truly amazing to see the transformations that she's helped people with, not only with their physical body and losing weight, but also just their mindset with food. A lot of us have really bad mindset when it comes to food, and that is one thing that Lori is absolutely amazing on, is being real and honest and sharing. Life is not always perfect and life, it gets in the way, and I think that's why macros work for so many people, because it gives you flexibility while also helping you achieve your goals, and also learning to have really good snacks and food that is healthy for you. I know we're all guilty of having the bad snacks and not thinking about it, where Lori really provides the same really good tasting stuff, but stuff that falls into your macros, so you don't have to feel restricted. Because as we know, we all go through those diet phases and those yo-yos, and Lori has been no different. As you can see in her pictures here, she has had an amazing transformation herself, not just on the outside, but on the inside, and she empowers women every day, and not just women, men every day, to go and do that for themselves and not to be afraid of food and to embrace the food and be happy about it, and that you don't have to starve yourself, because she knows what it's like to do that. So it's been really amazing to watch her on this journey and start this company and bring it to where it is today. She makes a huge difference in tons of people's lives, and we are all so, so proud of her. And we really want to take a second to shout out to her and her company. And you guys, she was also on the show as well, and she was on episode 21. So make sure you go back there, and she'll give you a breakdown of what macros are there as well. And then you can, of course, reach out to her, like I said, macro_McKay, and that's MCKAY on Instagram, so that you can chat with her. She is amazing to talk to, and she'll help you answer any questions, because like I said, she's been through it all, you guys. And it's, once you learn macros, it is a science, right? You just get used to the habit of it, and you just fall into that. And Lori's done this for so long and has such an amazing story for herself and how that's changed her life, and now again helping others. So, and don't just take it from me. I screenshotted some amazing testimonies from some of her clients. So one was, I never in my life thought I would find something that was so freeing when it comes to food. Macro is for real one of the best decisions I've ever made. And you hear this a lot with people, especially those that struggle with food, right? And struggle with like good and bad food. So amazing, amazing job, Lori. I'm so thankful that I don't look at food as good or bad food. I definitely make better choices for my goals, but it's not a bad food. Right? That's exactly it. You want to make empowered, fun choices, and Lori helps you do that, right? So, not just for me, you've seen it there. You can see it in her pictures. You can just see it when you go and follow her on her client highlights. That everyone is truly, truly, truly benefiting from Lori's work, and we're just so proud of her. And thought it's definitely time to highlight Lori and her company. So again, make sure, guys, you can follow her on Instagram at macro_McKay if you are looking to jump on a challenge or get one-on-one coaching on macro nutrition. All right, guys, let's get back to the episode. Can we dive into a little bit now into the beauty part of it? Because this part, I'm real riled up about Botox lately, so it's so great that you came into my life kind of in this perfect time, because the last couple of weeks, knowing that this episode was coming up, I don't know if I'm just like getting preamped, but can we talk a little bit about how you feel about Botox? And if you can, if you feel good enough to explain, let's say no one heard about our episode before with Never Talks and with Gretch. What is Botox? What do you feel about it? And yeah, we'll just start with that one.
Okay.
What is Botox
What is
in your
Botox?
yes.
Botox stands for botulinum toxin A. This is a natural occurring toxin. It's one of the most deadliest toxins on the planet. And it was originally developed and refined for warfare. But what it does is it essentially paralyzes muscles and keeps them from functioning. And so the idea with Botox is that when you're constantly engaging your facial muscles, well, they create lines and wrinkles. So let's stop the muscles from engaging. And so then you don't get the lines and wrinkles. That's the idea behind Botox. It's quick, it's easy, it's effective.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why people use it, because it does get effect.
It does the job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are other issues with Botox. And one is that it's toxic.
It's
That's
just right in the name.
already it's toxic.
Yeah.
We already get toxins from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. So why in God's name would we want to start adding more, purposefully adding more to the toxic load of our body? We're shortening our lifespan by doing so. At least that's my opinion.
Yep.
Um, and the other issue is that when a person starts paralyzing these muscles, it affects your communication.
Mhm.
Like 80% of human communication is done non-verbally.
Mhm.
We are face readers by nature. And so when you start paralyzing these muscles, one, people aren't able to read your face as well.
Mhm.
And so when you're communicating with people, they may not be able to tell exactly what you're feeling and what you're trying to communicate. Two, on a longer term vision, what happens when you've got a mother with young children? As
Glad you said.
children, as human beings, we learn to communicate by observing our parents.
Mhm.
And so when you're watching, as you're a little kid and you're watching your mother's face or your father's face, you're learning how to interpret facial expression.
Mhm.
When you have a mother who's got these muscles that are paralyzed,
Oh man.
how does a kid learn that innate skill to read facial expression?
Mhm.
And I think long term, that is going to have a big impact on how we communicate as a society, just as human beings.
Totally. I completely
So
agree.
there's that aspect. There's also the mirror neuron issue.
Mhm.
And so the idea here is that when these facial muscles fire, when they work, they send messages to our brain that, oh, this is the emotion I'm feeling.
Mhm.
And so a good example of this are these muscles right here in your eyebrows. When they fire, they crease, they create these 11 lines right here.
Yeah.
That area usually corresponds to anger, irritation, frustration, or intense concentration.
Mhm.
And so when you're flexing these, it
Yeah.
sends that message to the brain, oh, I feel this way.
Yeah.
Well, what studies are showing is that when these muscles are paralyzed,
Doesn't
people, and
really.
there are studies out there that have shown that when you get these areas injected, all of a sudden you feel less depression. Well, depression is just anger
Mhm.
turned inward a lot of
Yep.
times. And
Yep.
so the headlines are, well, Botox cures depression. Well, no, it doesn't. What it's doing is it's just stifling this um, connection
Emotion
between the muscles and the brain.
and
It
your brain.
doesn't
Yeah.
actually stop the emotional connection. And
No.
it's the same way with resting bitch face. It's
I
it's the
have that so bad.
same sort of thing. Is that we have
Yeah.
these underlying emotions. Facial muscles don't engage unless there is an emotion behind it.
Yep. Good point.
And so when people say, well, no, I just have a resting bitch face, I'm going to say, well, likely there are some underlying emotions here that are creating that, even whether or not you're conscious of it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're not conscious of the
No.
emotions that we're holding until
Yep.
we start really delving into things.
Yeah. I do
So,
that at the gym because I'm so focused. I'm just like, can't use anything to move my face because I'm so focused. And I'll look up, I'm like, wow, you look like such a bitch. Smile. Hi, I'm nice. But it's true. People look at me, they're like, ooh, right? But cause that my emotion at that time is like, I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm not focused on like my face. So that's my like focus face. It just looks like bitch face.
mhm. So again, Chinese medicine really looks at trying to get to the root of the
Emotion.
problem.
Mhm.
And so Botox is simply kind of masking the issue. It's not
Yeah.
really a solution to the
Mhm.
problem, but it certainly is a quick and easy fix to the
Right.
outward
To the
appearance of
aesthetic
the
part.
issue.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think aesthetic facial acupuncture really excels,
Yeah.
is that we start getting a person more tuned into themselves so that they can start working on those emotional issues and the self-awareness and their health. Because of
Hmm.
course, when you look at someone's face, health is beauty. When
It is.
someone's
Yep.
healthy, they're glowing, they're radiant, they're soft, they're shining. It's
Hmm.
they're they're
You can
healthy. You
see it.
can just see it. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of
And the
it again.
energy, you feel it. You feel
Hmm.
it, right? And I feel like it, like in that level, your body's in homeostasis. There's nothing that's fighting itself on the inside as the body, inside as the head, spirit, heart. It's in, everyone's happy, everyone's flowing. And you can feel that. And you can feel that with people when they walk into a room. You just feel their energy. Some people don't because they have no awareness to themselves or others. And that's totally understand. Like they're on their own spiritual journey. They'll get there at their time. But like one thing I've always been told is like you can feel when I enter the room, whether that's a positive or negative. Like the minute I'm not like fucking Mary Sunshine, everyone's like, what's wrong? I can feel something's wrong. I'm like, I hate and love that about myself because it's so great to be able to be in that good mood and influence the room to raise up with me. But there's nothing worse than you're just kind of going through your moments and you just want to be like low. Everyone's like, I don't like this because now I can feel that. And you're like, shit, I kind of have some public responsibility to how I'm presenting around others because if you're really connected, I find to your body, you can influence the energy that you're putting out and how people are going to receive that. And those that don't understand that can really take that offensively and be like, why don't you like me? Like, literally has nothing to do with you. I'm just in my mood and you can just feel that.
Yep.
It's crazy. I love that. I love it and hate it at the same time because I'm like, I'm just allowed to be a mean bitch right now if I want to. I don't have to be Mary Sunshine every day.
No, you don't. In
No,
fact, don't stuff that, because
no,
the more you stuff that, the more it congests
in your
your
face.
your liver, and thus this area in Chinese medicine corresponds to the liver. And the
Okay.
liver, the
Sense.
emotions associated with it, anger, irritation, frustration. So if you're stuffing that and not expressing it, it shows up here.
Yeah, this is my what the fuck line. I don't know why people want to take it away from me. I worked in the oil field. I started cannabis in Canada when it opened, and I have worked in it for the last 5 years. I work in crazy places. Like, I earned this. But it's really interesting to know because, again, we're looking at that holistic, all around view, not just, like you said, masking this. Because, okay, let's just pretend, okay? Let's pretend for a second in this weird world that Botox does take depression away. So then, hypothetically, when the Botox wears off, would that depression not come flying back? Like, even if we accept that that is true. So it's like you can use that as a clickbaity line. But again, that shit's going to wear off. And speaking of that wearing off, if you're doing that time and time and time again and continually not having your muscles learn how to move, hypothetically, scientifically, would that just stop moving altogether? Like, are we going to start eventually seeing all the people that do this nonstop are going to have to start like getting lifts because it's just your muscles are just going to never come back and just I don't know, that's what I'm afraid of the most is what what comfort are we taking now by doing this? What is that uncomfortability going to look like when we can't use those products anymore? Is that a
What
weird thing to think about?
happens when you don't go to the gym and lift weights?
Well, you
Your
start to lose all.
muscles atrophy. They get smaller and they get softer and they get saggier. So over time, that's exactly what's going to happen with the facial muscles when you continually paralyze them with botulism toxin. And so that's what I love about the acupuncture
Yes.
is that
Please.
instead of deadening the tissue, we enliven it. We
Okay.
stimulate more circulation into the
Okay.
tissue. I'm needling areas that are the neuromuscular junctions where the nerves help innervate the muscles. So if it's a tight muscle, then that
Yeah.
muscle loosens a little bit. If it's a saggy muscle, then it helps tighten that muscle. And then we're also stimulating collagen and elastin production. We're bringing more circulation into the tissue so the tissue gets more nutrition. And it doesn't stop the facial muscles from emoting. It allows you to continue to be expressive and human rather than frozen.
Robot. I just always go back to that Christmas with the Cranks video or like portion where Tim Allen gets his whole face done and he's trying to eat peaches and it just like every time I'm not trying to be that way. I'm not that's not that is an extreme version of it. But in my mind, that's what I think people would think when they look at me if I did that. And I will ever I have to thank them for that clip because I think there's a bunch of us that were at that pivotal age that we seen that and I was like, is that what I'm going to look like if I do that? Maybe I shouldn't before I even knew about the toxic part of it. I'm going to be 37 this year, and so many people were always shocked that I'm in my 30s. Now I'm starting to see the age, like as I'm getting into my later 30s, I am starting to see the age. But at the end of my 20s, early 30s, most people thought I was in my early 20s. And then one girlfriend, I don't think she's a girlfriend, was like, you could just do a quick thing to get rid of that. And I just looked at her, I'm like, I'm 28 years old. Most people think that I'm 21. Why on earth? Like when I grew up, people that did those things were like in their 60s and 70s and they were, that's when people are doing it. Now we're seeing it, baby Botox is getting promoted, like preventative Botox. Preventative for what? Like it really upsets me that it went from something that within like 15 years even went from just something that you did in old age as like a perk up and really rich women did that, and now it's like I am told I'm a unicorn because I've never had Botox before. And then I'm like, okay, there's a black box warning on this. Do people
Yes.
not understand? So can we maybe just for people, when I keep saying that, people just look at me dead ass like they don't know what I'm talking about. So do you have an understanding of like, can you explain what that means if it has a black box warning?
Well, that's very simple. The
Okay.
FDA puts a black box warning on any substance that can kill you. I mean,
I
it's
thought it
it's
was
that
that simple,
simple.
but I'm like, why do people look at me like I'm saying something crazy? And it's like, people I'm afraid don't have an understanding because it's something that can be used, something that can be legally done, that it then can't hurt you. And it's like that, but that's not true at all. Like it very much can, and you're taking the risk. And this is why informed consent is so important. Those individuals, we see this with breast implants a lot. They don't see the box that it comes in. They don't see those things. So if your practitioner or service injector, whatever, isn't telling you that, you're not getting informed consent, in my opinion. Like that's a big one. I understand like you can't tell everybody everything and people have social responsibility, personal responsibility. But if something has a black box warning and you have no idea, that freaks me out because then people are going, just normal day people will be like, get your Botox, it's fine, it's safe, it's da da da. And I'm just like, it has a black box warning. Does like do people know that they're putting themselves at risk? And also just for the mental part of it, this is maybe a crazy thought, but for me, if I went and did that and I got Botox, is that telling myself that I am less because I have wrinkles? If I go and do that and eliminate that, that's just where my head goes for me personally. And I worry about Botox breeding more body. Well, I don't know if it's body dysmorphia. I don't know if there's a different word for when like face dysmorphia.
Hmm.
But is that is that then going to help you out of your dysmorphia, or is that going to encourage it even more and kind of say like, no, yeah, that's okay to do this because I feel good and it's for me and women empowerment? Do you think there's a mental aspect to that
You bet
part
there
or
is.
much? Okay.
And I was actually talking to my wife about this morning. There is very much, I believe, an issue of cultural programming
Mm-hmm.
happening here,
Interesting.
and I'm still kind of working around this concept in my head. But you have the women who are told you have to get Botox because you have the lines on your face. Well, why
Mm-hmm.
is that? Why are you needing to remove the lines on your face? Is it because you're wanting to look more attractive?
Mm-hmm.
Is, are you having self-esteem issues? What is the root cause there? And then you have to ask yourself, well, why is that happening?
Mm-hmm.
So we get this whole youth obsessed culture is what we've got. Why
Yep.
is that? Well, there are people in our culture and especially in our media that I believe are sending these messages to women, and men are getting them now too,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
that we have to look and act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't, then we are less than in some fashion.
Yeah.
And I am here to rebel against that programming. I
Great.
believe in uh, authenticity, in that the good Lord made this body and God doesn't make junk. And the lines on my face tell my story, the story of my life,
Yep.
and what I have been through, the trials, the tribulations, the good times, the bad. It's all written there.
Mhm.
Now, are there some stories that I would rather people didn't read right off the bat? Okay,
Of course.
maybe.
Yeah.
In which
Fair.
case, all right, we can put some needles here. We can do a little bit of massage. We can change your diet and your we can work on that. But
Yes.
there's something almost insidious to me in our culture that is trying to tell us to be a certain way and look a certain way. And I
Mhm.
haven't quite figured out where the source of that is coming from yet, but I feel that it's just very insidious,
Mhm.
and it makes it hard on women especially. But again, men are starting to succumb to this as well.
Yep.
And we're seeing
Plastic
all
surgery
sorts of weird
with men.
off-label uses for Botox now. I mean, crazy things like scrotox for men.
How?
What?
What is that going to do?
What it does is,
Is
again,
it,
and I
does
think
it like get rid of the
again,
wrinkles?
I think
Isn't
yes,
that what?
it is Botox injected into the scrotum to make the scrotum and the testicles look more visually appealing. And
Is this just for
so,
porn stars or this just like everyday people?
well, it's starting to become more common in the public, and I think this really becomes an issue because
Yes,
I think
it does.
pornography is
It's
consumed by so many. And so people are seeing this and they think, okay, well, I have to look this way
like when,
in
yeah,
order to be sexy and attractive.
yes,
And
100%. Well, we're just on our last two episodes ago, we dived into plastic surgery and we were talking about, oh my God, I can't remember the name. It's like vi- vaginoplasty or whatever.
yeah,
And again, that was created by plastic surgeons. It's like they created this problem, this, and I love where you're at with this because I'm the same place. Like, where does this all come to? And all I can think is that it all connects to the big business of making this money and they all kind of connect to themselves, right? Because if you think, you're kind of, once you get hooked into plastic surgery, Botox, that beauty industry and that beauty standard, and you try to chase it, it's almost like you're going to be a cash cow for the rest of your life for the beauty industry, the plastic surgery industry, and eventually that is going to lead you to the medical industry because we can look at all these different items that we're putting in the body. And I flag this all the time, like you said, it's not just the food and all and the water and all that, which is a huge issue. But let's just talk about beauty industry in its own. We're talking about the toxicity in makeup,
yep,
in shampoo, conditioners, in lotions, in perfumes, and all of these things. They're all making money and they're making the oil industry money. And I'm not talking about like oil and gas that heat our home. I'm talking about like there's a different like industry of like plastic. And then we're putting that all in our body. And then, like you said, I think that's why we're seeing so many people with liver problems because isn't that where that stuff kind of has to get detox through? And then we're seeing all this stuff come out in our body and our like when people have really bad body odor, instead of always covering it up with aluminum, aren't you going to ask, like, why am I stinky? Like, why is my body exuding this smell? But people don't think that. They're like, oh, fuck, I smell and I'm just going to cover it up. And they don't even know that they're just clogging their pores with aluminum that's then absorbing because your skin is like your biggest organ that's going to
yep,
absorb this stuff. And all this stuff stacks up. And it's just like, what? Like you said, for fucking what? Like, this is where I struggle. For what? If I sit here and I cover my face and I do all these plastic surgeries, I know deep down I'm not going to feel better about myself. That's my personal opinion. And I feel like you've got this industry of the media and celebrities and influencers all being paid to push this. The beauty industry is right there making money. Then you got like then the plastic surgeries, and then you've got big tech that are like coming out with these filters that make you feel like you need to do these things. It's almost like you can't, you're in this like mirror that you can't like hide from it until you break and you're like, I'm done. And a lot of us women got to a certain point where it's like, I can cake this on my face, but it ain't hiding my acne, and my acne's not going away, and actually makes me look stupider because I felt like people knew I was hiding it. And for me, like, I got no boobs, so boobs have always been people like, oh, just get them, like it'll make your body. And I'm just like, but why? I'd rather go to therapy and learn how to love myself, because I've seen what happens to women when they don't react great, and that's not great. And again, for what purpose? To be sexy, to, we talk about how we hate the patriarchy. There's this huge movement about like hate the patriarchy. Baby girls, that's who's making money off of you, is all of these services. That is the patriarchy.
Yep.
So do we hate it, or are we funneling it? We don't like, let's say the elites of the world that make the money, the scary white big men up there. And I'm not saying they're not trash, but those are the people that are running Victoria's Secret and these big clinics that make all this money. So it's very confusing for me. I'm in the same headspace. Like, is this all just designed to make people feel like they're less so that they spend more, so that their pockets are continually lined with our attempt to squash our insecurities?
I think
Or
it's very fear driven.
back to that
And again, we see all this in
sentence.
the media that we consume,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's on the news, magazines,
Yep.
again, pornography, all of these things make us so afraid that we are not
Good.
enough.
Mm-hmm. And
And
they
so
make
that's,
bank. Like, it's a very clever plan. Like, not to be that way is very sinister, but it's definitely a business plan.
yeah,
And it's definitely making a lot of people money. And then I feel like they get out of touch with their souls. And then we have a lot of people that, aren't connected to religion, don't have, I'm all for everyone kind of having their own faith, whether that's God, whether that's universe. It's just something to hold you to a moral compass. With some of those individuals, I feel like it just doesn't exist. Like you said, they're telling women you need to have a flat face. But if my face is flat, how does that make me a better person to you or to the world? That's just where I go, right? So it's like, why would I put myself at risk so that I live up to a beauty standard that's going to change tomorrow? Look at the Kardashians. Like, how much have those women changed over the years based on what's popular? And they kind of set those trends, right?
yep,
And now they make a big butt. Now they're saying don't have a big butt. And it's like, well, how many women got a big butt because they wanted to be like Kim K? And now they're like, wow, my butt implant flipped inside out, which can happen very often. Like it's like you said, what's the point? Who's behind this? And what's the biggest way we can fight it? So the alternative to Botox, we were talking about your acupuncture. Can you, because you have a system, right? Can we talk about your system? I think, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. So the AcuFox aesthetic system, is that where,
yes,
did I say it right? Can we
yep.
talk about that so we can tell others they're all alternatives, guys? You don't have to put toxins into your face if you are looking to revitalize, refresh, and feel a little bit better. Take it away. You tell me.
Well, my system is kind of an amalgamation of a handful of different styles that I've learned from other teachers throughout the years. So I have to give thanks to Doc Ron Rosen. He was my first cosmetic acupuncture teacher. He was the first licensed acupuncturist in the state of Colorado. Um, and he taught Martha Lucas and Denise Ellinger. They took what he taught them and put their own spin on it. That created Zen cosmetic acupuncture. That's one of the big time styles. And so I learned from Doc, and I learned from Denise. And then I also learned from Mary Elizabeth Wakefield with her style of constitutional facial acupuncture. I also learned from Michelle Gellis. And geez, I know I'm spacing somebody else here. But there are other teachers that I will continue to learn from. I'm continually trying to hone and refine what I'm doing. But essentially, the system is we do body acupuncture and herbal medicine for your health and wellness in general.
That's so
And
cool.
then we add in the facial needling for whatever issue that you're wanting, whether that's sagging, bagging, lines, wrinkles. Uh, we also include acu-integrative microneedling, and so that combines motorized microneedling with acupuncture. That really does a great job with the fine lines and wrinkles. And then I include Chinese herbal medicine. not only internally for your general health and wellness, but also externally. There are Chinese herbal medicine face masks that we can soak herbs on the face to help improve the skin in various ways, whether that's to reduce inflammation or bring more moisture into the tissue. And then there are things like facial gua sha, facial cupping, jade rollers. I incorporate those kinds of things in as well. There's LED light therapy. So red light is very good at helping boost collagen and increasing circulation in the tissue. And then, of course, I do a little bit of facial massage in there as well. And then I also coach my folks on Chinese dietary theory because when it comes to cellular regeneration, there are two main issues there. It's either a lack of energy or a lack of nutritional building blocks. So I coach folks on diet from a Chinese medicine perspective. And yes, I also forgot about the electro acupuncture that I include as well, that I learned from Dr. Jeremy Steiner, and his style of electro acupuncture is fantastic. It's very subtle. It's not something like when you go to a physical therapist and they hook you up to a TENS unit where your muscles are constantly spasming. No, this is about adding.
Just think about that on my face. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh.
No, this is about adding good,
Nice.
usable electrons to your
Mhm.
body to increase your body's natural energy. And so
Cool.
we're boosting your energy and then running that through specific meridian channels that energize the face.
Mhm.
So there's that as well. Um, what else? And then there's also specific Qigong breathing techniques that I will also teach my patients as well for cultivating their own energy as well as releasing any emotional stagnation. And so there's a whole lot that I cram into that. There's also various nutraceuticals that I'll encourage patients to use for just general health and wellness, um, collagen production, and also I've got one that targets DNA and RNA. So we really kind of get down to the cellular
Basic.
and
Yep.
genetic level as well. And so there's a fair amount in there that I
There's some
offer.
services. You do some
Yes.
things. You got some things. And
Mm-hmm.
all are these services, everything that you offer, they strictly in your hometown where you practice? Or is there anything that those outside can maybe, is there masks that we can buy from you, or is that strictly like only blessed in your
You
town?
know, right now it's pretty much in my office. I am working on getting my technology up to where I can start figuring out how to offer um, things online. And
Okay.
so I just, uh, as of yesterday, my website was just redesigned, and
Yay.
so it's it's a
Work in
beautiful thing.
progress.
Uh huh.
Nice. That's
Uh,
amazing. Oh, that's so exciting.
yep.
I just feel like a
Spots.
lot of people could benefit from you outside if you ever do have that, because I know a lot of people, especially up here, are really starting to look for those alternatives as they're learning about stuff, and I feel like if it's available, they'll more often, go for it. For like, oh, that's something that's never going to be in Canada. Just like, oh, don't let go of that. It will come here one day. It'll catch on. It'll be the next trend because it'll be the one that doesn't hurt you. What that doesn't come with these lists of side effects, and some of those side effects are what you're using it for. It's like, I want to feel better about myself and not be depressed, and then all of a sudden these women are being like, yeah, it didn't help me, and now my face is all messed up because I've botched situation, and now I'm even more depressed and I can't leave my house. And that just kills me. It makes me so sad to read that. I know Gretch was weird in your eps or chat with her talking about that Facebook group for Disport, and I read it every day. I just love and try to support everybody in there. Obviously, I don't have an experience, but it fuels me all the time to go on my own story and be like, do you guys like, obviously I'm not sharing those stories because you're
Mm-hmm.
not allowed to, that's private, but just being like, hey, are people understanding? Like, go to this group, please follow Never Talks, and yourselves, and just so that people know there are alternatives to traditional, those kind of things, if that's what you want, and they come with way more benefits to them, right? It's not just about feeling refreshed and youth. It's actually working with your whole entire body to bring you back so that maybe you're not sitting like this all day, you know, and
Yeah.
even though, you know, you work in Excel, you get to have that face. That's just natural when you work with Microsoft
Yeah.
Excel. But
It's about feeling beautiful and vibrant
yeah,
and
yeah,
energetic from the inside out.
yeah,
This is a reflection of everything in here. Your
yeah,
health and wellness are a reflection, or your beauty is a
yeah,
reflection of your health and wellness. Your health and wellness emanate out and show the world your beauty. It's
absolutely.
it's that authentic health. That's really the root of it. And
Yeah,
so that's why I love this work that I do, is I get to help people feel healthy and beautiful. And when I get a woman come off my table and look in the mirror and actually see change, and that smile lights up on their face and they go, "Oh my gosh, look at
look at me.
that."
Yeah.
Oh, that just lights me up. I mean, I get jazzed
Yeah, yeah,
when that sort of
absolutely. It's
thing
like
happens.
energy boost.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because you're seeing they're making a difference, and then they kind of feel in control. Because I feel like with more natural and holistic practitioners, you guys really put the patient and the client in the driver's seat with you. And it's not just like, listen to me, this is what I'm doing, like, this is how I'm doing it. It's like, you guys are really involved. You want to know things. You ask deep questions that are all around, not just what, you know, okay, yes, we want to deal with this, but what's going on? Like, what is causing your face? Like you said, people probably aren't thinking, how does that, my emotion, is that affecting my face? So one big thing, I know a lot of people like to get their lips injected. Now I have a decently thinner, let's say, upper lip that has quote unquote bothered me because I've been programmed that it's too thin and it's got to go. So instead of going and doing anything with it, I actually just started training my mouth to move differently. And just being aware in photos of like not lifting my lip all the way up over my teeth, but just being
Mm-hmm.
aware of what that looked like. And instead of going and get fillers to remove my gummy smile, let's say, quote unquote, I just relearned how to use the muscles in my mouth and my face for photos, for things that maybe made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't have to go, and I'm not saying that's what we all have to do, but that didn't make me have to go and get my lips injected at the time where I was like, oh yeah, I don't have, like, I always did hold my lip up and it wasn't there. And now I've
Mm-hmm.
just changed that a little bit. And now it's not something I even friggin' noticed, because as I aged, and I was like, I don't give a shit about that. So stupid. But just showing that, you know, you can, like you said, train your muscles to do different things. Like I have one eye that definitely gets more lazier than the other. I could go easily in and get a couple, and I'm sure this has been suggested to me more times than I can count. I could just get a couple do on one side and it'll always be even. And I'm like, so are you telling me that my one lazy eye a little bit is not okay and I'm not pretty with that and then I should go get it fixed? Like, when people say that, do they understand the implication of what they're telling that individual? Oh, just go get a couple of vials of Botox. It's like, when you're saying that to someone that's trying to fix their body dysmorphia and their face dysmorphia, and you just say that like it's such an easy thing, it's not as extreme, but that's like telling someone who's anorexic, will just eat a burger. Like
Yep.
there's so much more to that. There's obviously a reason I'm not eating that burger. There's a reason why I'm not doing that. You know, I've never gotten into fitness competitions. Same thing. I'm sure I have the energy for it. I'm sure I have the stage presence to be a bikini competitor. I don't want to put my body through that, and my mental health, because I just started loving my body, and my body dysmorphia will 100% resurface and be 10 times more for a trophy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for me, like, I get other people doing it. We know I have mad respect for women and people that can stick to that, but for me it was like, that's dangerous. Like, so just saying go into a bodybuilding competition to someone that's just gotten over massive dysmorphia, that's not a positive a thing. And it's just sometimes a little crazy when people suggest some of these things and they don't understand the implications to that said person. It's not just getting Botox. I'm like, that's a fucking toxin. Why would I do that? Why are you telling me to do that? Do my 11s bother you that much that you feel like I should put a toxin in my face? Like, or is that just to validate that it's okay for you to do it because I'm doing it too? Because, like, quote unquote, misery loves company. Not misery, but for lack of a better word, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, people that are pushing this, I'm like, are you really understanding what you're pushing? Because you're literally telling women that they're only going to be acceptable if they put this toxin in their face. And at the meantime, saying I hate the patriarchy. Very confusing.
Well, the
Very
reality
confusing.
is that no one's face is completely symmetrical.
No.
It just does not happen. And in Chinese medicine face reading, one side of your face actually represents your public side or your public persona. The other side represents your personal persona. And so if you're a very, public person and you're out there all the time, the right side of your face may be more expansive. Whereas if you're, very, very shy, very private, then the other side of your face may actually be a little bit more closed. And so there are just natural energetic differences that happen between one side of the face to the other. So that is something, again, that is completely natural, completely human, and something that we don't have to be ashamed about. There are folks like me who've had Bell's palsy, for example. Um,
Wow.
for your folks that don't know what Bell's palsy is where the seventh cranial nerve, the facial nerve, quits working. And then one side of your face goes completely slack. The muscles no longer work. And people get that.
A
It's
lot.
actually more common than one would think.
Yeah.
I had it when I was 10 years old,
Oh, wow.
right
Okay.
when I was starting sixth grade. And so, starting middle school with half your face paralyzed when you're just trying to fit in
That's probably
is a
was
little
was a
difficult.
trip.
So
Yeah.
I have a big heart for people who are dealing with those sorts of things, and acupuncture and massage can be very helpful for those sorts of issues. I actually wrote about it in a book that came out this year. It's called The Hunt for My Smile. It's a collaborative book. Amy Samick put it out, but there were 26 of us that each wrote a chapter in the book. You can find it on Amazon.
I
Um,
get it.
Great little book, and I've written my chapter in it about my experience in sixth grade and how that went. We all wrote it because we didn't want people with facial paralysis who've been dealing with that, either with Ramsay Hunt syndrome or Bell's palsy, or they've had some kind of cancer that damaged the nerves.
Mhm.
We didn't want people feeling like they were freaks and alone, and to let them know that there are other people out there like them that understand what you're going through, and that there are things out there that can help. And
Yeah.
so I have a big heart for people with Bell's palsy, Ramsay Hunt, trigeminal neuralgia, any sort of facial nerve issue. That's
Mhm.
something that acupuncture can be very helpful for. And so
I've heard that
those are definitely my folks. But as far as having an issue where you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing facial asymmetry, I get that. I deal with it on the daily. I look at my pictures. I'll be watching this podcast and going, "Yep, there it is. There's my
too. Yeah,
squinty
same.
right eye."
Always
And
I always have usually my hair this way so that you can't see it as much. It's like my defense mechanism, and then as I'm getting comfortable, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right."
well, that's the
But
thing.
I don't care. It's learning to embrace it, right? And
Yes,
and like
that's
you
what
said,
makes us human.
yeah, and leading that and being like, it's okay, like that's one thing that kind of off topic that I learned about sharing about myself so that people had less stigma for themselves is like I'm a born and raised stoner. I have been my whole life. Everyone knows me as the token white girl. I've always been that way, and I used to very much hide that I because I'm a huge advocate for it now. It's actually my career. I actually moved cannabis across the country legally for anybody listening in other countries. I work in legal cannabis, so chill. But I used to be very quiet, and I used to teach Zumba, jumping fitness, and hip hop fitness. So I high level cardio. And people used to like only know me as that. And then when they got to know me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm a huge stoner. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, I just like smoke a huge joint just before I jump on my trampoline. And they're like, that doesn't make sense with the amount of energy you have. I'm like, because that's my medicine, that's my plant medicine, and I choose to use it in a way that, highlights me, and that's not for everyone, and I'm not saying everyone go out and do that. But in that moment when people were just like, I had no idea, and then it changed their mind about cannabis, and instead of looking at it as the devil's lettuce, they're like, oh, maybe there is something to this because they knew me first and they knew who I was. Then all of a sudden they started changing their mind about that thing that they have stigma for. And I was like, wow, I think it's really important then for me to share some things that, might seem taboo or not, acceptable to society so that people do not feel like they're alone. And cannabis was just one because it was such a huge difference. People would be like, but you yell at us for an hour jumping on a trampoline, like at 110. How did you, if I did that, I'd be on the couch. I'm like, because I know how to use the medicine for what it is for me, based on my energy levels, and I'm up here all the time. So that's why I don't drink coffee. I don't take any uppers. I don't, because I'm already up here. I don't need to go. So it's like the cannabis kind of brings me back to a level because I'm so high, and not, you know what I'm saying, but but it was just one of those situations that I was like, wow, people truly don't know you, right? Like, and so once you get to share those, let's say, bad things about yourself, you end up having other people be comfortable coming to you about those things, right? It's like, oh wow, that person's gone through that, they understand that. So it was my first time being like, girl, you could just be yourself, and it's going to help other people learn to love themselves. So I think that's what's beautiful that you guys did with that book, is being like, yeah, it was hard, and I'm not going to say things weren't hard and it was easy, but you made it through, and there's a ton of people that are here, and it's everyone has a human experience. Unfortunately, you can't go through this life without learning some lessons. No matter who your maker is or who you believe in, you're going to be meeting your maker, whether that's, through lessons, through coming through back in time and time again. We can't avoid the hard, but we can be here to share it with other people so it's not so alone, so that you're not suffering in silence, right? So good on you guys for sharing that and giving light to people that maybe don't feel like it's there, because most circumstances are temporary for the most part. Some last a little bit longer, right? But it's those people that are like, don't give up at those moments when you want to give up, that you need. So
Yep,
I'm gonna have to go look into that book. That's awesome. It's on Amazon, you said?
it sure is.
Okay, cool. Do you want to say the name of it one more time, just so I don't forget?
Called The Hunt for My Smile,
I think I've
and
seen you
it's
promote
by the main author is Amy Samick, which is AMY, her last name SAMEC.
Perfect. Good. We'll have to post that on the story as well to share with you guys. Like, what haven't you done? I feel like you're me and you do a whole bunch of different things all the time. And it's like all these opportunities probably come to you because you're so open about that. So, are we able to just talk a little bit more? Okay. So, we can't get any of your goodness at our home yet. TBD. We'll announce that
Yes,
whenever we hear
I'm.
something from you.
My intention is to create an online program to be able to teach, more of the mental, emotional, the dietary, the exercise, sort of stuff, everything that doesn't necessarily include someone putting needles in your face.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to
Have that.
synthesize that and be able to put that online in the future.
That's amazing. I'm excited for that. So until that time, one of the questions I have, because we did talk about gua sha, so that is something that I have literally bought a set for a year. I have the oil, and I'm just sitting here going, is this something that I should be doing myself? Is this something that I should be going to professional for? Is there anything like gua sha or anything that we can do at home if we don't have accessibility to the services that you provide? Is there anything you would suggest for us to look into?
You bet. I love facial gua sha as an at-home tool.
Cool.
The issue becomes there's a lot of tutorials out there on TikTok
That's
and
what I'm reading, and
Instagram
I'm like,
and
what if I
YouTube,
do the wrong one?
and
And now
some
I've
of
got a
them,
devil chin or something.
yeah, some of them are good and some of them are not.
I know.
So
That's why I haven't
actually,
started.
I have
That's why I'm
a
like, I'm not starting. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till I talk to Terry. He'll lead me in the right direction.
so I have a gua sha stone here.
Yes.
Um, the main trick is you want to use it lightly. You
Okay.
don't need to mash in. It's not, it's a very
Light
light massage with the stone. And the idea is that you're basically moving the lymphatic flow towards the ear and down the neck so that that fluid can
can drain.
drain.
Cool.
So if you're using the stone and you're creating any sort of redness, you're
Stop.
pressing too hard.
Okay. That's what I thought
Um,
too. And I was like, I feel like this is supposed to be nice and light and like
yes.
you said, to remove the blockages to get everything draining. This there is a woman, she's from the Ukraine. Her name is, I believe it's Marina, and I downloaded her face yoga program. And before you even touch your face, you have to go through the stretches and making sure that you do jumps in the morning. And so I haven't got to the face yoga part because I've been nervous, but I always do the stretches every morning. It's like 15 minutes of all these different stretches. And then I jump for 100 times to get my lymphatic system going. But I also have a trampoline. So I've been doing that a
Mm-hmm.
lot too, and reading up about how good rebounding is to get that, flow. And it's like, you can, once you start doing it, you can actually see it like on your face. You can just see the like puffiness kind of go away when you're actually moving your body and doing things like dry brushing and stuff too. It's
Yes.
actually kind of insane of how these natural things that you could take 15 minutes out of your day, and it's going to help move things around your body. So I'm really excited that you said that, Guasha. Is there anybody that you know of that's good to look up on
I
social media or
On
YouTube?
social media, I really like Wildling, I think
Okay,
Wildling Beauty, uh, Lan Shin on Instagram. She's also really good. Um, who else? Those are two of the big ones that I really like that come to mind right off the bat. Um,
perfect. We'll share
and
those.
they're fantastic, and both of those ladies are trained acupuncturists, so they know what in the hell they're doing.
Right? And that's the one thing that scares me. I don't know if you've seen that, especially on the holistic side. And I don't know if this is just Canada or whatever. I just feel like, and I love where people are coming from because they just want to help. And I totally understand that. But it's always like these like weekend courses, and then you can teach this. So it's like you get nervous signing up for those types of things, even though you want to do it, because you're like, well, do they fully understand? There's more to it than just the gua sha, right? Like you guys know the whole effect of what that does, and where some people just learn this practice but they don't learn the behind of it and
Yep,
how that all attaches, right? And I feel like sometimes it's a little dangerous, like, when you see like fitness, let's say coaches, they go on a weekend course. I am one of those people. I took a fitness course and I went over the weekend and I was like, and now I can teach fitness. I was like, this doesn't seem right. I don't feel like like group fitness, dancing, that's fine. We're dancing, we're having fun. You're not lifting, I'm not really hurting your muscles. I'm okay with that. But it was like, oh yeah, you can just go teach, all these boot camps and you're free to do that. You just have to make sure you have two people. So technically you could do PT with that. To me, that's super dangerous because you don't know anything about eating. You don't know anything about the body. You're literally just taught how to put together classes and you get your first aid. And so I see a lot of that. And that's why I've been so nervous, because I'm like, I want to go to someone that actually knows the full thing, not just the surface level part of it trying to make money.
yep.
Even though I'm sure it's in good intention.
You're speaking my language here. I have the same sort of issue when it comes to dry needling
Yeah.
and
Okay.
chiropractors, sports therapists, PTs.
Mhm.
At least here in the state of Colorado, they're only required to have 46 hours worth of training before they put needles in people. And someone like me has to go through, a master's degree program and 500 clinical hours or 500 hours of clinical supervision before I'm turned loose to put
Mm.
needles in people. And so it's the same sort of thing. Um,
Yep.
more training is always a good thing.
And rounded one too. I did that happen to me in Canada. I did go to a chiropractor that did do acupuncture stuff and put needles in there. Worst experience of my life. It was kind of like in my back. I could feel all the way down into my elbow, all the way up to my wrist. And I was like, I have been in the hands of a chiropractor and a masseuse since I was about 12 years old. I got in a car accident. So I've always had a group of medical practitioners around me in that area for my body. And I know immediately when something is not right. I've seen tons of people, tons of practitioners all over the place, and I can just tell immediately. So that's where for me, it's like, I don't want to go to someone that's not their number one profession. Like, I'm not going to come to you to crack my back because you're acupuncturist. Even if you took like a unit of learning that, it
Yep.
still doesn't mean that you fully have the understanding of how that all connects. There's no possible way that you could be taught that in that amount of time, where it's like cupping. Like, I love when I go to my chiropractor and she'll do a bit of cupping to help her do that. I think that's great. Cupping's not a needle going in. It feels a lot different. I feel like needles are a little bit more, not dangerous, but dangerous for people that don't know what they're doing. Whereas like at least cupping is just like the surface part of it. And I'm sure comes with its dangers, but
Oh, it
I
certainly
did
can.
that one time and I was like, never again, never again. I'm going to a direct acupuncturist next time, because that was terrifying. Because I was like, what could have happened if you put that in the wrong spot? Would have I been paralyzed? Like, I don't know, maybe that's extreme, but it felt like it was all the way down. And I was like, I can feel this in my elbow. I don't think that's normal.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I don't
there
know that.
there can be all sorts of risks, anything from nerve damage, paralysis, organ puncture, and yeah, if you poke somebody in the wrong spot, you can
It's
kill
not
them.
good.
I mean,
100%. Scary. People need to take that seriously, in my opinion. And
yep.
this is where I struggle with practitioners that are just like money, money, money versus like patient care. And you can tell which ones are patient care because they're continually learning. They work with individuals around them. They accept opposing opinions and will discuss that in an adult discourse. And they don't gaslight their clients. I think that's the biggest frustration I ever have with anybody is just telling someone no. It's like, maybe they're wrong, but like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Let's talk about that instead of just being like, no, you don't have anything. Oh, that's just your mental health. It's like, okay, well, where's that coming from? Because people just don't wake up with mental health issues. It's coming from somewhere, it's coming inside somewhere. So that's why I struggle. I was just given anxiety medication and I went on it for 2 years. Worst experience in my life. Ended up feeling way worse. And I was like, I didn't learn anything over the last 2 years how to make this better for myself. I wasn't trained on the tools that I could use to help with anxiety. It was just like, and then I was numb, completely numb to any emotion. And as a past photographer, as an artist, like you need those emotions to drive your art. So I get in front of people and I was like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how to pose you. I don't know. I don't have this vibrance of me. And I was like, ooh, maybe my like quote unquote anxiety wasn't really anxiety. Maybe it was artistic energy that I just didn't know how to funnel yet. Because I don't have that anymore now that I have this, that I, fully step in the past to art. So the world is crazy. I'm really glad that you said gua sha and drop those. Is there any other things, just like high level, that we could be doing to make ourselves, like you said, it's from the inside out. So, what would you
Hmm.
be base level suggestion for people to make sure they're doing so they can help glow a little bit more on the outside?
Okay. Base level. We talked about it a little bit. Feel your feelings. Don't stuff that stuff. Allow yourself to feel those feelings. The more you can process those emotions, the less they etch the lines on your face. So, how do you process those emotions? Well, one, you feel them. Two, you talk about them. Three, exercise. Actually go out and sweat a little bit. I'm not saying you have to, pour sweat, but go
Come to
put your
CrossFit.
jogging pants on, go out for a brisk walk and just break a little bit of a sweat. That sweating, actually, that fluid exchange of the water going from the inside to the outside does so much for the body and the skin. And so making sure that those fluids are being replaced and then moving. So again, inside outside, it's a cycle, and that's
Yeah.
how we roll in Chinese medicine. We talk a lot about cycles. So staying hydrated,
Mhm.
and then of course diet, as if you can stick as close to the farm as possible when it comes to your diet. So eating organic as best you can. And I mean, this is what I love about Chinese medicine dietary theory, is that it preaches everything in moderation. So if you're
Mhm.
not going to get everything you eat as organic, and fine. If you have to go shop at Walmart in order to get your food, that's okay. It's all about baby steps and taking,
Mhm.
one small step towards health.
Yeah.
So if you can
Slowly
get some
replacing.
fresh fruits and vegetables,
Mhm.
great. If they happen to
Start there.
be organic, even better.
Mhm.
But just start with the little steps. You don't have to just go whole hog, because that
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
work.
No, people
So
get real mad.
small steps with your diet, being
Mhm.
cognizant of your emotions, and then authenticity. No more self-abandonment. You know,
Mhm.
Again, with all this programming, you abandon yourself to thinking, I'm not enough. I'm just not enough. Let
Yeah.
me tell you, you are enough. You are a divinely created being, and you are perfectly imperfect, just the way you are. And
Agreed.
so when we really take that to heart, that can change some amazing things in
Mhm.
us.
Absolutely. It changes how we operate and how, you look at yourself. And I think a lot of people, they say they can't even look at themselves in the mirror. And I was like, I feel that. I've been there. Push through it. Stare at yourself in the mirror. Stare at yourself in the mirror. And people was like, especially in fitness, I don't want to take pictures. Take the pictures. You don't have to share it with everyone. But like if you're afraid of your body or afraid the way you look, one best way I got away from being afraid of it is by looking at it and accepting it and not hiding from it. Be like, what am I so mad about? Why am I so upset? Like I can't even look at myself. So how do I even know that I have problems there? Or just making this up kind of in my head. And like, if you take yourself like I'm not saying body check, but if you hate the way your body looks in pictures, then take a ton of pictures of your body until that just becomes normal for you to see.
Yep.
And another reason why I say that, I hate my voice. Like, not anymore, but I hated my voice. And I was like, now I gotta listen to myself like 1 to 2 hours a week while I'm editing. Oh, this is absolutely terrible. Every time I was like, can someone else listen to this episode and tell me where there's good reels to pull from this? I don't want to hear myself. And now after 3 years, it sounds like a normal voice to me. It sounds just like my mom's voice or my boyfriend's voice. Like it's normal to me now. I don't hate it because I listen to it so much now that it's common to me. It's familiar. And I feel like if we can't even look at ourselves in the mirror, then how do we know what's even wrong with us? If we can't even look at ourselves, right? Are we just comparing stills? Like, I don't know. So I've really enjoyed this talk, Terry. I feel like I could talk to you for another 6 hours. I would definitely like to bring you back on again to kind of dive more into like the metrics of it, like because I'm not very good at science and all that kind of stuff, but I love listening to it. Just like when I had Gretchen on the show, she went all like science nerd for me, and I was like, I learned so much, even though I didn't understand half the things she said. It was really great, and I just really want to thank you for spreading the message that you spread and being a positive light in this natural area, especially in the cosmetic side, because I find that's a very hard one to fight, and I commend you very much. I get a lot of not a lot of backlash, but I do get some like unfollows and upset people when I do bring up these kinds of things, but I don't care because like you, I just want people to know that they are perfectly made the way they are and they don't have to do those things. If you want to do those things and you have informed consent and it truly feels like what you need to do, you do you, because that's none of my
Yes,
business, not my
indeed.
body. I don't meet your maker. I don't deal with your mental health battles, so I can't speak on that. I just want people to be informed, and I think that's where you are too, right? Is just
Yes.
having a full understanding of what is out there and what you do and have to do, and you do not have to subscribe to this bullshit of what you should look like. If you feel good about your wrinkles and you love, like I like when people look at me because they can see my expressions and I'm always fucking smiling. So I always have had that warm energy and people love that about me. I go back and look in pictures. There's very rare pictures where I'm not smiling, and like you said, that's that I'm glad you said that communication thing, because I read that as well, that babies are struggling to learn facial expressions from their moms because of the frozen of their faces, and what are we stealing from other people when we're trying to feel better here. So amazing conversation, Terry. Before we get off today though, can you share where we can find you? So you have your website going. What about Instagram? Is there any way that anybody can follow you so that we can track this besides having you back again?
You bet. Yeah, the website is foxhavenaesthetics.com, and that's the British spelling of aesthetics. So there's an AE in there, just because I thought it looked cool, you know.
It does. As a French person, I struggle English, so always have to explain the language for me because I'll just spell it with extra e's everywhere.
And then yes, you can find me on Instagram. I actually kind of enjoy being on Instagram, so you can find me
Great.
there at Foxhaven Acu, or look for Terry Fox. Although depending on if you're in Canada or whatever, you might find a lot more. Uh,
I giggled so hard when I was like, I don't know if I need to say this, but I'm just gonna leave it as with Terry Fox as the title, and I bet you all Canadians are gonna be like, "What?" And then they're gonna be pleasantly surprised to see that it is another amazing hero, in my opinion, especially in this space. So you get to take that name. You'll be the American Terry Fox as opposed to our fallen Canadian
there we
one.
go.
I
You can
love it. Well,
also
thank you.
find me on Facebook,
Oh, perfect.
and you
Okay,
can
cool.
find me on LinkedIn. Again, you can just type in Terry
Search.
Fox acupuncturist in the search. You'll find me.
Let's
Just
say
look for the guy with the mustache. And
Very nice mustache, by the way. Love the whole getup. I was like, I know Terry's gonna show up looking nice today, so I like did not. I had a shower. I blow dried my hair. I was like, yeah, I have to at least not look like a swamp troll because I know he's gonna show up very dapper and all put together. So you don't best believe I thought about that today. Oh, I
that's
love it. Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to chat with you, Brandy. I sure appreciate it.
Of course. I do too. Well, guys, you know where to follow Terry. You know to follow us. I hope this was informative for you and you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. But until next time, guys, bye. Thank you guys for stopping by the show today. We appreciate you so much. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, make sure to show us some love on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest page, the Be Real Babe Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels, like those episodes, and turn on the notification bells. You can find our video version of the show on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, or you can catch the audio version on Apple and Google Podcast. But stay tuned for more realness coming to you soon. Until next time, babes.